Hello, this is a video on solving for a different variable. So let me show you what I mean. We're going to start in test 1, section 4, number 9. And as you can see, this is a series of 2 questions, but we're just going to do number 9. And they give us a formula to begin with. And honestly, we don't even need to read the question, because if we look at the answers, we can see that we're just solving for t. So how do you take this equation that is that's solved for a and get the t alone? Okay, so this is basic algebra. Okay, I guess I shouldn't have drawn that line, but what we're going to do is we're going to get the t alone and subtract everything on the side of the t over. So, and we're going to do the same thing here, and we're going to get a minus 1052 equals 1.08 t, and then we simply divide by 1.08. Okay, and we get t equals a minus 1052 over 1.08, which is letter A. A is the answer. Okay, that would be the simplest version of solving for a different variable. But now I want to go back. I'm going to put this over here. So this is test 1, section 3, number 7. This is a crazy looking question, but it's exactly the same idea. I didn't want to do this first because it's pretty scary looking. So I'm going to attempt to write it out, even though I really don't want to, because it's kind of complicated. All right. Now, the thing is, this is a question, like many questions on the SAT, that is designed to look really scary, but in actuality is just based on a very simple algebraic principle. Okay, so we've got that, minus 1, and then we've got a p. This is the whole problem. Now, if we look at the answers, we can see we're just solving for p. We don't have to know what all of it means. We just need to get the p by itself. So the first thing that we do is we have to get rid of the fraction. Well, we haven't done another problem like that. So the first thing we do is we have to get rid of this denominator. So we multiply both sides by that denominator. Okay, this cancels out here, and it simply goes over onto that side. Okay, now again, we want to get p alone. So now we get to divide by all of this. All right, so I'm just going to do it. All right, we just take this and divide it out on both sides, right? That cancels out, and we get this big monster over here. And I want to show you something when we're done. 1 plus r over 1200 n. Okay, so I know it's like very crazy looking, but we have the p over here alone. So we end up with p and then all of this coming down. I'm not going to waste your time by rewriting it. What we have done essentially, if you look at the numerator and the denominator, I think I'll try to get another color here. This was our original numerator, and look, it becomes the denominator. We basically just flipped it. This, I'll use a different color. This was our original denominator, and look, it is the same thing in the numerator. We just did the switch. I really want you to understand this because it's actually, if you get the concept, it's really easy problem. It just looks really scary, that's all. But it's still basic algebra. Okay, now let's go to, I think I'm going to clear the decks here. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. Okay, we're going to go to test 2, section 3, number 12. All right, and this time we have no numbers at all. We just have letters. Doesn't matter. I don't want you to freak out because there are letters. It's still exactly the same concept. And again, we don't have to read the problem. We just look at the answers and we see, all right, we're solving for F. All right, now, just like in the previous question, we want to be getting rid of the denominator. So how do we do that? We multiply both sides by that denominator. On here it cancels out, and we end up with, I'm going to put the R first because that's how we're used to seeing these things. And we get F. Now we can distribute that R to both. So we get Rn plus Rf equals F. Now, at this point, some of my students want to divide. But remember, you cannot divide until there's only one item on the left of the equal sign and one item on the right. So we're still trying to solve for F. We need to get all of the F's over, which means even though this F is attached to an R, that's okay. We're going to deal with that later. We're going to try to get that F over to the right side. And we end up with F minus RF. Now, if you remember, a basic algebraic concept is you can always pull out a common element, right? So here we're going to end up with Rn. There's nothing you can do with that. But we can pull out an F because F is common to both this and that. So if you pull out an F, F into F is 1. F into negative RF is negative R. And you see what we've done? We've isolated the F. So now we can divide by the 1 minus R and end up with F equals Rn over 1 minus R. The answer is B. Okay, good. Was that test 2? Yeah, that was test 2. Okay, good. Now, the next one is, yeah, let's do this one. It is test 2, section 4, number 22. Now, this is also, just like the first one we did, it's part of a series of 2. And so up at the very top, they give us the formula. And it's a little bit different looking. I equals P over 4 pi r squared. And if we look at the answers, what are we solving for? R squared. So we want to get R squared by itself, but as usual, we want to get rid of first this fraction. So we multiply both sides by the 4 pi r squared and the 4 pi r squared. Here it cancels out, and we end up with, I'm just going to rewrite this as P equals 4 pi r squared I. Now, all we have to do, remember I said you can only divide once you have one item on one side and another item on the other side. This is all one item because they're all combined through multiplication. So now we can just, we're trying to solve for the R squared. We can just divide by everything that is not R squared. 4 pi I. And all of, well, this cancels out and that cancels out and that cancels out. So we end up with R squared equals P over 4 pi I. And that answer is B. And there you have it. Okay? All right. That is all I want to say. Those are the variations. Take that into account. Really make sure you know it, and feel free to review. All right. Take care.